it was a time in this country when patriotism was upfront and important to everyone. When the bombing of Pearl Harbor took place, everybody rose to that occasion. Even all the wives and females that were left home, everybody participated in that war. And when we came back, you'd think we were the greatest heroes in the world. Their country meant so much. There was so much happiness then, so much optimism, so little pessimism.
This episode is brought to you by Thorne Health Tech. Which company do you trust when it comes to your health? Thorne Health Tech provides over 190 supplements and products necessary to avoid deficiencies and optimize mental acuity, holistic health, speed, strength, and conditioning. For years, I've taken their amino complex, whey protein, and elite multi AM and PM vitamins. I'm proud to represent Thorne. Why? Because their quality of products is the highest, as well as purity and potency of every supplement. They're backed by the Mayo Clinic. The raw materials that go into the supplements are NSF certified for sport, as well as tested and retested to meet Olympic standards. So if you're looking to optimize your performance and get to the next level, whether it's to meet your protein thresholds or just optimize holistically, trust Thorne. To get started, enter your email and enjoy 25% off at thorne.com/u/Mark Glicini. That's thorne.com/u/Mark Glicini. Enjoy. Now, back to the episode. So I feel really lucky that I get the chance to share one of my best friends with the world. So, Pop, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
I've been asking you for a while to come on because you've had an amazing life, an amazing journey, both work, family, and faith. And I have a community that's looking to always get better. And I can't think of a better role model than you. So I guess I want to start off by saying you're 99 years old, recently turned 99 years old. How does it feel to be 99?
But I feel very blessed that I'm 99 and don't feel 99. I feel like maybe I'm in my 60s or 70s and amazingly good health.
And I would completely agree. It's amazing how often I get to see you. You still go out. You're go to church every single morning at 8 a.m. and you're talking to me from an office where you do a bunch of work. Could you share what you tend to do in that office?
What I do uh, pretty much every day. Number one, I pay all my bills, and that's the first thing I do. Go to the mailbox, get the mail, and pay my bills, and then I do some stock research, and because I have a portfolio of stocks which I constantly update with buys and sells, and so I spend some time doing that with research. Then I actually, and I have in front of me right now a pile, probably about an inch high, of thoughts. I put down my thoughts each day. Sometimes I write a little poem, but also I have, way in advance of this meeting, memories of my past and uh, and the great life that the good Lord has given to me.
So let's go back. I want you to course correct anything that I get wrong. But from my story, you've served in the United States Army. You started a family of five, all while working a commission-based job. So do you mind going back to your earlier years when you were growing up and share for those who are listening what it was like in your earliest chapters?
Well, I grew up in Patterson, New Jersey, and in the Depression years, I was born in 1926, of course, and then the Depression came along in 29 and lasted actually for quite some time, but most people don't realize that. But it really was at its worst in the middle 30s. And in turn, it hit our family drastically. My father was with a brokerage firm in New York, or Colson Heel and Trail, and they went bankrupt along with all of Wall Street. My grandfather was president of the bank and former mayor of Patterson, also owned a jeans factory with a partner. He went bankrupt, and his partner embezzled any monies that were left there. So here we were. My father, at that time, we were renting a place, but couldn't afford the rent. And my uh, aunt and grandmother lived in a family home in Patterson, and they couldn't pay for the mortgage. So what we did, they got together, decided that we would move in. My mother, father, and I would move in with my aunt and my grandmother, and things were pretty bad. I can remember standing there. Probably, I guess, it was about 8 or 9 years old, and watching them put their any monies they had in the middle of the dining room table to see if they had enough to pay for the mortgage that particular month. And luckily my aunt was the only one that had a decent income. She was a school teacher. But my father then started to go into the investment business, and which he knew little about as far as selling, but he learned and was selling what they called an IDS certificate, where people would put away monies on a monthly basis so they'd have $1,000 at the end of 10 years. Isn't that a joke?
Uh-huh.
Anyhow, and of course, he was made a commission. Anyhow, uh, things got a little bit better, but not much each month. I remember personally uh, the thrill, and I think it was 9 or 10 years of age, to getting a job to try to help out. So I worked for John the gardener, and we were mowing lawns, rotary mowers, of course, in those days. And I worked 7 days a week in the summer, uh, and during the weekends, other than the summer. And I made 25 cents a day. And I took that 25 cents, and I was so thrilled to go to the back of the kitchen where we had a refrigerator. We had given up our ice box and bought a refrigerator on time. And it had a little slot where you could put quarters in, and then they come and pick up all the money each month, I guess, to pay for the refrigerator on time. How thrilled I was when I could take my 25 cents and put it in that slot to help pay for that refrigerator. That is probably one of the fondest memories I have of my early youth. And but the thing that was also quite amazing, here we were, almost destitute at one point, and yet we had fun. We we still had a lot of laughs, and felt we were very lucky just to have enough food on the table for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That was one of my earliest memories. And do you mind to continue as I grew up?
That's beautiful, and I think you were quite the ball player, a very family man. And I think the next chapter that has always been riveting to me is your time in the service. So if there's anything from high school that you would like to share, and then right into your time in the service, what was that
Okay.
chapter like?
Yeah, I'll make it. Well, as far as my high school uh, years, I was very, very lucky to be able to go to Montclair from Patterson for 6 years to Montclair College High School. It was a school that was established by the state. You had to apply to get in, and in turn went from eighth grade through senior, uh, and in turn we were taught by college professors. So we were very lucky in that respect. We got a really great education. Plus, playing sports, I played football, basketball, and baseball, and we were taught by college coaches. And actually, we didn't have too many students, but because of that college coaching, we won a number of games in all three sports. I think because we had more information and better coaching than our opponents. I was captain of my basketball team and captain of my baseball team for 2 years each. And anyway, that was a great experience, those 6 years of high school.
I mean, sharing that story that comes to mind for me is your high school basketball coach about
Oh,
free throws. Why don't you go into that story?
oh, sure. Yeah, actually, when we first started to play basketball, we had this college coach who said, "Okay, uh, first I want you to know that more basketball games are won on the foul line than in any other way. So we're going to make more foul shots than whoever we play, and it's going to start right now. You're not going to leave this gymnasium until you can shoot at least six foul shots out of 10. And I don't know how long that's going to take, but I'm going to stand here and watch it." So, anyhow, we started off, and it took a while for us to actually start to make six. As soon as we were able to make six shots, we were able to go home. And anyway, then he said, we're going to, after making six, we're going to make seven, and then we're going to finally end up making 8 out of 10, which probably none of your opponents are going to be able to do. So we're going to win more basketball games because of it. And that's exactly what happened. We were able to shoot 8 out of 10 foul shots, and only because of practice, and more practice. In those days, we shot underhand. anyhow, but anyhow, he was a smart coach
Right.
and realized how important foul shooting was.
And Pop, we have so many coaches that listen to this, so I know that they're smiling as they listen to that section. So you come to an end in high school, and before you go off to college for the GI Bill, go inside your time in the service and what made you go there.
Yeah, sure. Well, those were different times when World War II started, of course, with Pearl Harbor. This country was extremely patriotic. And I joined the service at 17. I had to get my parents' consent. And in May of 1944, and we were all graduating from high school. And every one of my friends that were graduating with all had already enlisted in some branch of the service, the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force. I had enlisted in the Army. And when we got our diploma, we said goodbye to one another and all went off to whatever service we had enlisted in. And that was not unusual. That was going on throughout the United States. Everybody enlisted, and the draft took place as well. But it was a time in this country when patriotism was upfront and important to everyone. And of course, World War II, when the bombing of Pearl Harbor took place, everybody rose to that occasion. Even all the wives and females that were left home did something, serving in the hospitals, making bandages, whatever. It was a phenomenal time. Of course, you probably heard of Rosie the Riveter. So many wives uh, went to work in manufacturing plants to make weapons of all types, and everybody participated in that war. And when we came back, you think we're the greatest heroes in the world. There were parades, constant parades, and meetings and happy events to welcome all the GIs back home. And then, of course, I think one of the greatest things this country ever did was have the GI Bill of Rights. I would never have been able to go to college or afford to go to college, but because of the GI Bill, I was able to go to Bucknell University in Pennsylvania and full room, board, and even a monthly amount of money to spend for expenses. And it meant so much to this country because all those graduates became what we call the greatest generation. We all went to work, got good jobs, and made this country at that time uh, one of the greatest countries in the world.
One of the stories that's always stuck with me because I was personally involved in it is several Christmases ago, and we're coming up on Christmas here in 2025. You gave me something that was left in your locker, and I just want you to tell that story because it's a remarkable one.
Yeah, I was going in jungle training in South Carolina before we went overseas, and we were going for three weeks at that time into the jungles of Georgia, and believe me, they had a jungle there. And we even learned how to sleep in trees. Anyhow, the point is, I everybody had a foot locker and a lock, and so all our belongings of any worth were put in your foot locker before you went off. I didn't have anything much but a wallet and my watch and a little Bible that a pastor had given me in Patterson. And anyhow, uh, we were gone for the 3 weeks, came back. I found out that my locker had been broken into and my watch was gone and my wallet was gone, but they left the Bible. And that Bible, as you know, I gave to you, Mark.
No, it means so much to me. I remember like it was yesterday how much I was brought to tears when you did that. So, um, thanks for sharing that. Bucknell, I know you it's a joy in your time there. It was amazing. My sister ended up going there. Aunts and uncles went there, and Bucknell University is big in our family. And then let's dive into kind of what separated you, Pop, was your work ethic. So coming out of Bucknell, could you share what was your first job out of Bucknell?
Yeah, yeah, you know the story. Um, as it turned out, my first job was with 3M Company, and I got it the first week after I graduated. I heard about some openings there, and in turn, seven of us, actually people that I knew pretty well, we all went uh, and applied and were hired. And the job we had was to sell Scotch tape, which has just been newly invented. Nobody ever heard of Scotch tape. And my assignment, along with others, but my assignment was to go to Brooklyn, New Jersey at 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night and sell Scotch tape door to door. And anyhow, and my supervisor would stand on the corner and make sure that I went into every store. I did that all day long, 5 days a week for 6 months. Believe me, I learned how to sell. And actually, as it turned out, my production was higher than the other six people that had been hired at that time. So they promoted me to the new products division. And the new products division, 3M had just invented a duplicating machine. The first duplicating machine that was ever invented was invented by 3M. It's called Thermofax. So it was a big, huge machine, and they gave me a station wagon to be able to put it in back of and go around and try to sell the Thermofax to various manufacturing companies and whatever. Anyhow, I was lucky to be able to get that promotion. And however, I think I only lasted another year, and I realized this is not what I wanted to do. And that's when I made my choice to leave 3M and go into the investment business.
And before we dive deeper into the investment business, one of the brightest lights is your love and your marriage. And I was doing the math right before hopping on this recording that the amount of people in the world that have been married for 75 years is 0.0016%. So roughly 130,000. And you and Grammy have been married for 75 years, just last month. So could we pivot into that when you met Grammy?
Oh, sure. That's, you know, the story. I probably told it how many times, Mark, to the family.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is an amazing story, and it's definitely was a blessing from God. God had the biggest part of that, because as the story goes, it was just amazing. Here I am home, summer, the first summer from Bucknell. And I guess I might have even been in bed, and the phone rang, and for me, and it was my buddy in Ridgewood, New Jersey, who said, "Get over here to Ridgewood as soon as you can. They're having cheerleading practice at Ridgewood High School." And so that sounded pretty good to me. I hopped in the car and went to Ridge, got in the stands just as the cheerleaders were coming across the football field. All of a sudden, all by herself, because the rest of them had already met, uh, I saw this knockout looking gal in a green blouse and green shorts, coming across, blonde, beautiful, blue eyes. Oh, I was taken aback as soon as I saw her. And anyhow, I watched her. She was there to help teach the cheerleaders. And anyhow, I followed her home, and in turn we stopped the car, and after right in front of her house, and I got out and I introduced myself and said, "I'm Jack Campana," and I said, "I wonder if I saw you at Ridgewood High, and I wonder if you'd like to go out this Saturday night." She said, "No, I'm busy." She told me her name, Joan Guyot, and that was that. 3 years went by. 3 years go by, and I get a phone call. I had graduated from Bucknell. I had accelerated, and Taryn was a fraternity brother in New York City, calling from the Biltmore Hotel, and he said, "Hey, we come on into New York to the Biltmore. Georgian Court College is having a junior prom." I said, "I've never heard of Georgian Court College. Why would I want to come into the junior prom?" He said, "Hold on." And on the phone, I heard, "Hello, this is Joan Guyot. Remember me?" This is 3 years later, after meeting someone for 5 minutes. Anyhow, I said, I remembered her right away. And I said, and she got off. And I told Whitey Kerr, and that was the fraternity brother, call me. I said, "Now, when I go from here," he said, "Don't worry, we've got it all planned. We have a date for you, and a Georgian Court alumnus. And here's her phone number. Call her up. She's expecting your call." Called her up, and she knew I was trying to call. Took her into New York City to the Biltmore, and walked in the lobby. And who's sitting there on a couch with her boyfriend but Joan Guyot? And she looked as beautiful as ever. And I remembered exactly what she looked like, even in 3 years that had gone by. Anyhow, the weekend I didn't get to talk with her too much, except when we were leaving. And I saw her in the lobby, and I was making sure that I was she was going to get out of that hotel without my talking to her. And I said, um, "Do you have a minute?" She said, "Yes." I said, "I remember you. Do you remember me?" She said, "Yes." I said, "How about going out Saturday night?" She said, "Yes."
Wow.
And and that was the beginning of our relationship. We went out one night on a double date and didn't get to talk all that much. Did a lot of dancing though. But the second night we went out to a restaurant bar out on Route 9W. We sat in a booth all by ourselves and we talked for 4 hours. I
Mhm.
fell deeply in love with her that night. And I think she felt the same way, felt deeply in love with me. And that was the beginning of our relationship. And that was February of 1950. And we went out every weekend from there on. Gave her my fraternity pin in June. We got engaged in August and married in October 7th, 1950.
Absolutely
I
wonderful.
think part of the story, though, and I think the story you want to hear is that when we had that first date and we talked for 4 hours, she told me how much her Catholic faith meant to her, and went on for quite a long while, telling me how she started going to mass when she was actually about 10, 11 years old, even though her family had not been going to church. But she felt she had this calling. And I thought that was quite amazing. Anyhow, expanded on how much her faith meant to her. And I felt, you know what? That's something I lacked. I really didn't have much of a religion. And so I decided I wanted to convert and become a Catholic myself. And this is the amazing part of that story. I wanted to get married in the Catholic Church. But before I could do that, I had to take instructions. So I didn't know any priests. I went to my father and I said, and at that time he was in his bedroom. I said, "Dad, do you know any priests?" And he said, "Yes, I do, but you also know one." And I said, "Who's that?" And he said, "Father Anselm Krieger, the Franciscan father that I played basketball with in Patterson, New Jersey. He's and you actually met him when you were at St. Bonaventure, remember?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Well, guess what?" And he reached from the top of his high boy and opened an envelope and it said, "Hi, John. Guess what? I'm going to be in Patterson, New Jersey this summer at the seminary. I want to get together." I said, "I can't believe this." Anyhow, I called Father Anselm Krieger and asked if he would give me instructions. And when he's in the seminary, he said, "Sure." And he came over 3 days a week, uh, I guess for like a month. And anyhow, I uh, was able to then convert and became a Catholic before we were married.
Pop, you mentioned there that you felt it was something that you were lacking. What did that mean? What do you mean it was something that you were lacking?
Well, I feel I was, when I heard her story about how much her faith meant to her, I realized, hey, that's something I was lacking
Hmm.
big time. I had no religion. I never went to church, but I could see how much it meant to her. And I thought that is something I'm lacking. Yeah.
And when I was younger, I remember it was when you and I were just becoming friends. And I say that because there's not many grandkids who get the opportunity to not only have an amazing grandparent, but also become very close friends. And as I was turning into my teenage years, I was asking you a lot more about faith. And you said every time you went into church and left church, you felt one word, fortified. And I was like, wow, that's wonderful. And that's something that I kind of learned from you is feeling fortified. And that's something that's resonated with me ever since. So
Yeah.
you using Grammy as a lens into back into the investment business, right? You started a family together, and you were still hustling, and no longer selling 3M Scotch tape or Thermofax. You went into mutual funds. Is that correct?
Correct. I actually sold that was back in 1952. Nobody even heard of mutual funds. And so that was a real plus to be able to. I thought the product was fantastic. Instead of buying an individual stock from a stockbroker, to be able to buy you might say a hundred stocks from various companies to diversify your money instead of buying one stock, I thought that was something I could really sell, which I
Wow.
did. I sure did.
Yeah, and Pop, my favorite story inside of that I want others to hear, and I've actually shared it on a prior episode with a different person because I was so moved by it. But talk about the time where you were wearing your fedora in the nicest of clothes, and you went deep to make a sale.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, eh, I started with, uh, I guess they gave me nine, I think it was nine prospects or actually customers. How as it turned out, only three of them were decent clients. And so I started with three clients and uh, I built that book of business up. See, started in 52 and I was on a strictly commission basis, no benefits, uh, no bonuses. It was strictly commission. Get up in the morning and try to find somebody that would listen to my story about mutual funds and how much they could benefit from purchasing those rather than individual stocks. And anyhow, every day, and I got up in the morning and had to make a sale. And I did that from 1952 to 1965. Um, and I ended up starting with those three clients. I ended up with almost 300 clients and had a
Amazing.
really good book of business, which actually really held me in such good stead because I was promoted to become a divisional manager and build my own division with my own people and make override. And which meant so much is that I was able to hire people and give them clients. I had
Mm.
300 clients, so I was able to start them off with a number of clients, and that helped for retention.
Pop, let me ask you a question. For someone who is starting out in business, you went from three to 300. What are like one or two tips that you would give to someone that's looking to start their own book of business, that's looking to build their career?
Number one, make sure you know your product back and forth. Know your product so well that you're able to recite uh, the benefits to any prospective client with great assurance that you're going to sell them. You have to believe in what you're selling to the point where you just know you're going to make a sale because they're going to realize how much it's going to mean to them.
Right.
Uh, and I know this is tough to believe, and but here I am married with five children, and most of my sales made at night because during the daytime everybody's working and whatever. So I would approach them and we get try to get an appointment. And so I would be going out. I was going out at least 3 nights, sometimes 4 nights a week, uh, and also Saturdays where I could be able to see someone. And for them to invite me into their home um, at night, I knew I was going to make a sale. And I never, ever did not make a sale.
Mm.
Not one time did I ever go and not make a sale. And that's because, as I just said, nobody's going to invite you into their home if they don't intend to maybe to purchase something. The only sale I didn't make was for my father's cousin, who I had an appointment with. I think I told you this story. Uh,
No.
so my father's cousin. So I have an appointment at 8 o'clock at night. My father's cousin pulled up in front of the house. It's dark, nobody home.
Pop, when I thought about while you were talking about know the product so well, is I heard someone recently say you have to be extremely competent, like know what you're doing, but also very warm. And if you're competent and warm, you're going to be able to be invited in, and then people will allow you to make the sale. But I also think you can't inspire other people unless you're inspired. You can't touch other people unless you're touched. You can't move other people unless you're moved. And I've always been moved by you, Pop. So I guess I want to go into what would you say were the hardest times there, right? You're on a commission-based job, raising five kids. You talked about the depression earlier, and it's so awesome to listen to you say we still had fun during the depression. And then World War II, it was a hard time, but there were parades. So I love how you're always throwing the positive spin on it. When you were in your career, what were some of the hardest times in your career
Oh,
that
I can answer that. I went through from 1952 to the time I went into management in 1965, so it's 13 years. We went through 17 recessions. 17 recessions. There was a stretch of time when the Dow Jones average, I think it was like 9 straight years, never went up. Actually, if you bought the beginning of those 9 years and sold 9 years later, you would have made no money. I went through the 17 recessions, but I knew what I was going to do to survive. You can imagine here these people that I had sold that now are looking at their portfolio and realizing that they have all these losses. So I used to go back to them and sit down with them and say, I realize you invested this and now it's worth this. I said, now is the opportunity of a lifetime. The opportunity to buy with the market's down 10%, 15%, 20%. I said, I guarantee you will make 10, 15, 20% in the next couple of years. And they did.
Amazing. And Pop, there's you gave advice, amazing advice to someone that's looking to start their business. You spend and invest a couple hours per day checking out your stocks and your investment accounts. For someone listening that wants to be a better investor, what would advice would you give to someone who wants to be better at investing?
Well, if they want to spend the time, they're going to have to get a little bit more knowledgeable about how to buy a stock or a bond. And I started when I first started out to really do research. The first thing I looked at was the management of the company, and in turn, who's the president? Who are what's the board of directors made up of? Are these knowledgeable people, good people that really know what they're doing? So management, in my opinion, was number one to investigate the management of the company. Secondly, all important, the earnings. You want what are the earnings? Not only the earnings in the past, but the prospective earnings for the future. What's the price earnings ratio of the stock? Is it overpriced or is it priced at a worthwhile price? Uh, is it worth buying now or should I wait? Um, what new products do they have coming forth? Uh, uh, and in turn, do I agree that maybe this is something that's going to be very saleable? Uh, so there's a lot of research that I think I did, and not a lot, I think, in the long run, because I think I made some pretty good choices down the line.
Wonderful. And then going deeper into your career, 1952 all the way to 1965, what would you point to that allowed you to keep moving up? You talked about the 17 recessions, more about that was the climate and the market. But what about you personally, Pop? What would you point to as what separated you as you went climbing higher and higher within the company?
Hard work. Number one, I outworked everybody that I was in competition with. I this is a little braggadocio, of course. When I first started out, and in the Newark division, and I there were about 12 people that were representatives at that time, and they had a board of all the production of those 12 people. And of course, I was at the bottom, just starting out. I was determined to be at the top. And in turn, I knew I knew the way to get there, outwork outwork everybody. And I did.
One of the definitions for determination is firmness of purpose. What do you feel like? What was your purpose? What was driving you? Why did you want to go from the bottom to the very top?
Well, first of all, to support my wife and five children, to buy a house. At that point, we were renting. When I first got married and all, we were renting, want to buy a house. I wanted to be able to give all my five children a college education. I wanted to be able to earn enough money to be financially secure in retirement. All the things that actually turned out pretty well. Um,
Wonderful.
I would like to expand on, I guess you might say, the reasons for my success.
Please.
Um, Hard work, number one. And I think I told you I had actually little cards made up when I got into management. I made them up for all the representatives to put in their car as such, and it was KGDS. Keep going, don't stop. So often in sales, people will make a sale or two in the morning and then go play golf. That's not the way to move ahead. That's not the way. That was just not me. If anything, if I made a sale in the morning, I thought, hey, I'm just beginning. Keep going, don't stop. The second thing that I wrote these down, and I'm referring to my notes here. Persistence. I was very persistent, and I got very few no's, but I was bound and determined to have a successful day, a successful week, and do whatever it took to be able to have that, make that happen. And then, of course, I should maybe put this first, prayer.
Mm.
Uh, we were living in Ridgewood, New Jersey for quite a long while. And I had very often a really prospective client to sell at night. And I would go to church in the afternoon and pray in front of St. Jude. And I did that all the time. I was probably almost every day. I would be praying in front of St. Jude, and he always came through for me. And to this day, I give, here it is right here, prayer to St. Jude.
Wow.
Uh, and I give to the St. Jude Shrine every month as well. Uh, the other thing is smarts. I had a good education, and I think a lot of people are not that lucky. But when you have a good education, you end up being smarter than your competition, smarter than the guy you perhaps down the street, whatever. Also, the thing I think that was very, very important in my success was service. Every client that I had, I gave great care and service to. As soon as I'd make a sale, I'd go home that night, write a thank you letter, put it in the mail the next morning. Make sure I got their birthday and anniversaries dates. and sent them birthday cards, anniversary cards on a consistent basis. The other thing was self-confidence. I think I had self-confidence that I was going to be successful. I felt confident that I knew my product well enough and that I thought it was beneficial for whoever as such. And I could ever think of selling something I didn't think was going to be of benefit to my prospective customer. And I had self-confidence that what I was doing was the right thing for the customer that I was dealing with. And the other thing, no question about it, and then is having a supportive wife. When you have a supportive wife and you're having tough times, or even just going off each day, to have that wife give you a hug and a kiss and wish you well, to be able to come home at night and get that same hug and kiss and I love you, how much that means, in my opinion, for having success in life. A supportive wife, a loving wife, a caring wife. How can you beat that?
You can't. I want to double click on that and give you the floor to talk about Grammy a little bit more. You both, like we already mentioned, had five wonderful kids, 75 years married now, and have traveled to over 90 countries. What would you say about Grammy? Obviously, very supportive, but that's a lot of years, Pop. And what comes to mind at this moment about Grammy?
The love that she has given to me. Uh, uh, we have a great love affair still, married 75 years. uh, and uh, we have a great communication. That means, I think, so much in a marriage to be able to sit and talk with one another, to communicate some of those smallest things. Like we'll be at the breakfast table in the morning, and she's reading one newspaper, I'm reading another. We get the Post, and we get the Wall Street Journal, and also our local paper here. So as we're reading, we're sharing, hey, this story and that story with one another. It makes for a very happy breakfast morning. and,
Yeah.
and anyhow, so communication, how important that is in any marriage. I think the other thing is, uh, maybe you never heard of this, but having your own hobbies. Um, she, as you know, Grammy loved tennis and was a great tennis player. And I had my hobby too, tennis. Also, I had my hobby. Uh, we had the same hobby with platform tennis. And as it turned out, we played together in both sports and did very well.
That's right. That's right.
uh, the other thing is splitting chores. In a happy marriage, you have to have split chores and make sure you're going to do one thing, your wife's going to do another. And that's very helpful in a marriage. Uh, some marriages actually break up because the husband or the wife do all the work. And in turn, they get at odds because of that.
One of the things
Uh,
that's on Bob, one of the things that's in the kitchen there at your home, I think Grammy has it about Mother Teresa, but it's about repair and fighting well. One of the things that I've noticed is you may bicker with Grammy, you might go back and forth on different things, but you guys always seem to repair. Can you talk about that? Like to argue well, or to always get back to a very peaceful state, even when there's a disagreement.
yeah, actually, that goes back to Leroy Gear, who was a consultant to the company. And he was almost a mentor of mine. He was really a mentor of a lot of the vice presidents at that time. And anyhow, he gave some great advice in so many ways. And when he talked about marriage, he talked about the fact that all of you are going to have some arguments in life, your married life. And they can be good arguments and they can be bad arguments. But as you just mentioned, make sure at the end of the argument, no matter what it is, that you kiss and make up. It's so important. Don't let that argument last. And you've heard this, I'm sure, 1,000 times. Make sure you go to bed at night and with an I love you. Uh,
Wonderful.
even,
Go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say. Oh, also, Leroy Gray said, when you're having your arguments, make sure it's a fair fight.
Mm,
A fair fight is one when you're arguing, you're not bringing up the past. Don't bring up the past. You're talking about something right now. It's an argument. Keep to the argument. Don't bring up the past. And the other is make sure at the end of the argument that you both are satisfied with the outcome.
mm. Talk about a non-fair fight, you against life. And I say that because you're 99, Grammy's 96. Longevity, Pop. What would you point to that allows you and Grammy to go deep into your 90s? How are you still living so well, staying healthy, going out to dinners, going to church each day? What would you point to as some of the things that are allowing you to have such longevity in life?
Yeah, I've read some notes about that because I knew you were going to ask me about it.
Always prepared.
Uh, well, as we all know, heredity has an awful lot to do with longevity. It helps the fact that in my case, my mother lived to be 100, and my father to be like 94, and my aunt, as you know, 111. So there was a lot of good heredity there. But I have a doctor by the name of Dr. Franco, who I'm very close to. We're friends as well. He's just not my doctor; he's a friend. And he brought up not too long ago something which I didn't realize. He said, heredity means a lot, but guess what, Jack? It doesn't mean as much as you think it does.
Mm,
It's the way you live your life that gives you longevity so often. And he said you might be some of the unlucky ones that come out and get inherit cancer or whatever, but a lot has to do with the way you live your life as to your heredity. And he mentioned the things that you know so well: eat well, eat properly, exercise, all the things that I'm sure you preach, Mark, yourself. Uh, those are the things that mean more to, in his opinion, to longevity than heredity. Also, in my opinion, this is some things that I feel helped me to live as long as I have, and that is my optimism. I think I've been a pretty optimistic guy. I like to laugh. I love good jokes, and
sure.
we don't have enough of them today. Um, diverting a little bit.
Please.
We grew up in the 50s, and that's when we were married. We had six couples that we were very close to, kept going to different parties with them, dinner with their homes, whatever. And so often we would sit around. This is just a ritual. We would look forward to this. We would go to somebody's house for dinner, and here are these 12 people sitting. We have a cocktail in the hand, and we sit in a circle and tell jokes. And you better have a joke to tell when it came your turn. Yeah. And it was so much fun. Oh, I looked forward to that. So, and everybody wanted to see if their joke was the best joke. And sometimes we even gave a prize for the best joke.
Oh, good.
And you know
Good.
what? That was not unusual in the 1950 era.
Yeah.
that was I think that such a golden age. Realize this is probably tough to believe, and you know this, I guess, if you look back in history, there was a return of the war was over, and all the GIs are coming home, going to college, getting a job, and the result of all that was so much appreciation that they had survived the war, met a woman to marry, raising a family. Their country to them meant everything. They had just served their country 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Their country meant so much. There was so much happiness then, so much optimism, so little pessimism. Even the Republican Party, the Democratic Party got along well. Not just got along, they got along well. When there'd be something coming before the Congress, whatever it might be, they would be able to sit as gentlemen and discuss whatever bill was coming before the Congress. Discuss it without yelling and shouting and cussing each other out, without any animosity. Everybody respected one another. That didn't last long, but it lasted for at least 10 or 15 years. Uh, and it was an amazing period of time. There was no divorce. Do you realize there was literally no divorce? Look it up on Google. I think something like 5% divorce rate in the 50s. Now it's 55%. Uh, what do you think that meant? It meant we had a lot of happy homes and a lot of people that love their wives.
This episode is brought to you by Whoop. For the last several years, I have not taken this off my wrist. Okay, maybe I have, but it was just to change the colors. I truly trust Whoop. It's a wearable that lets me know about my resting heart rate variability, respiratory rate, and so much more. I wake up in either the green, yellow, or red, and I know if I should prioritize training and working out harder or I need to prioritize recovery. I was always looking for ways to optimize and take my performance and training to the next level. Whoop's helped me do that. If you're looking to get started, here's a free wristband and a free first month. And if you don't like it, you can return it at no cost. All you have to do is go to the following: join.whoop.com/MGPP. That's join.whoop.com/MGPP. Mark Glicini Peak Performance. My clients, I trust Whoop. You should too. Enjoy. Let me know how you get on. Now, back to the episode.
It was a very unusual period of time in the United States of America. A wonderful, happy, wonderful, oh, such a good time. Hey, such fond memories.
I want to point to um, messages that you would love to send out to your children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. How about
Yeah.
talking about them? Because I believe you have a dozen grandchildren now, who will one day they will have grandchildren. So what would you like to say to them?
Mark, not to, I'm sorry to interfere, but also a dozen great grandchildren. 12
What
and
is the number
12.
now? What's the number? 12
12,
and 12.
12 and 12. Yeah. Yeah, I do have down some thoughts, which I'd like to share with you.
Please.
Okay. Number one, and it was on every bulletin I ever wrote: the harder I work, the luckier I get. I live by that. Everything worthwhile in life comes from God. Prayer moves mountains. It has in our family in so many times over the years. You know, Mark, what your mother went through. Prayer, God got her through that. Our son John, she prayed too. And you remember she said, "Don't worry, I just blew your illness away. Anyhow, staying close to God every day of the year helps to give you a happy marriage, a better health, peace of mind, joy. Stay close to God every day, and you will have a happy, wonderful life. I have tried hard to be a good father, be faithful, loving, a good husband and father, and a good provider, and a person who is respected. I think self respect is one of the most important things a person can have. If you don't like yourself and don't respect yourself, something's wrong and you better right it or you're in for a downfall. I also hope that any inheritance that comes into our family will be used for seed money to start their own business, if that's the, and follow their own dream. Secondly, for a down payment on a fine home. Thirdly, to travel and see the world. I don't know what came to me in my life as to the desire to travel so much. I guess maybe it started maybe being in the army and realizing other parts of the world. Maybe that was it. I don't know. But all I know is I've always had this great desire to travel. And luckily, I was able to afford to do that. And as you mentioned, traveled to 90 countries and loved every minute of it. The thing we like the most, too, which most couples, they'll go to Rome or Paris or, and they'll go to the Colosseum, they'll go to the Eiffel Tower. And we did all that too. But what we liked the most was getting in a car and going into the inner parts of Italy and France and Germany and whatever, and small towns as well as large towns, and going to dinner with those people that live there
Mm.
and kind of get embedded with them, learn to talk with them, learn about their lives living in France or Germany or Italy. That was a lot of fun. And we did that over all those years. And it was very enjoyable. And made some friends that we kept corresponding with over the years in different parts of the world.
Bob, one of the things I've always admired about you, we talked about mentors and Leroy Gear, and I believe that mentors are meant to tour you through life. And you've given me so much of your experience and your knowledge and your wisdom, wisdom being the next right thing to do. You can't really find that in a book. Um, what um, what allows you to be so intelligent, competent, hardworking? You know, and at the same time, very warm and loving, right? How are you able to do both so well? Or did you have people who taught you how to do that, or did that come very naturally for you?
Well, I love my father. My
Mm,
father was a very giving person, uh, and I, I have nothing but fond memories of my father and the way he raised me. Uh, just a couple of stories to back that up. And you know what? Your father is an awful lot like him too. He started
absolutely.
he started throwing a baseball to me, I think, when I was 3 years old,
Mm.
and never stopped. Grounders, fly balls, get up on that bat and make sure you hit the baseball. Don't miss the baseball, hit the baseball. I remember that was so that isn't that funny? Don't miss the baseball, hit the baseball. and also this is good. And Ted Williams was able to do this.
Oh,
Look for the seams in the baseball as it comes in.
mm,
You'll know
mm,
it's a fastball or a curve or a slider or
mm,
whatever.
mm,
Look
mm,
at the seams.
mm,
And I had good enough eyes to be able to do that. But anyhow, he was such a wonderful father, and he loved me so. I was an only child, and I think the great story that he had. I came back from the service, and the next day, he said, "We're going down to Connor's in Patterson, the men's clothing store." I didn't have any clothes. All I had was my uniform on the that I walked home with, and he had no clothes. And so, anyhow, we went to Connor's, and I bet we were there half a day, starting from underpants to shirts to ties to suits to jackets to whatever. He outfitted me, and he knew I was going off to college too. And I think I was the best dressed guy in college. But
that's funny.
he just kept smiling. He loved to do watching me get all those clothes. The other great story about him to share what a great father he was. The war was on, and I was in Camp Blanding, Florida, in basic training, and 16 weeks, and you only got one long weekend off. The middle of after 8 weeks, you got a long weekend off, and it was like this was like 3 days. And so anyhow, the war, of course, was on, and my father got on a train from Patterson, New Jersey, down to Florida, and he went into St. Augustine by train, standing most of the time.
Mm,
The trains were also full. You were lucky to ever get a seat. Anyhow, and it took him, I think it was like 3 days to come down by train in those days. Anyhow, and just to be with me for 24 hours. No, 48 hours. 2 days he was with me. Yeah, in St. Augustine. That's a father. Wow.
yeah. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, that's for sure.
He
As
also,
we go ahead, please.
the other thing, which is absolutely amazing, he wrote to me. I was in service almost 3 years. He wrote to me every day, not long letters. Some of them were like 2 sentences. Magley was a pitcher for the New York Giants, and he was a great Giant baseball fan. Magley beat the Dodgers today 6-2, struck out 12. Love Dad. But anyhow, the letters, as you can imagine, writing every day. But as it turned out, being even at basic training, you never got a mail any letters or anything from like every 3 weeks maybe would be mail call, and then you get a stack of letters. And when I was overseas, it was even longer than that. Sometimes we didn't have a mail call for maybe 2 months. So everybody was amazed when we had mail call. When I was in Japan, when we had occupied Japan then after the war, mail call, and I would get not one stack, two stacks with all
Wow.
strings all over. But
Wow.
he wrote to me every day. So what I would do is get all the dates and put them in order so that so I know that some event was happening before another. I put them all start the first day right on through for 2 months. Anyhow, writing to me every day the
So
whole time
wonderful.
I was in the service. Yeah. What a father! Yeah,
Sound I didn't
yeah,
even know about that many letters. You have never shared
yeah.
that one with me. Um, you know, there's so many more questions that I could ask you because you and I could talk for hours, and I know that. Um, I guess to sort of land the plane and get to the last parts of our conversation here. You have such a passion for life. You love the New York Giants. You love the New York Mets, even though I don't. And
All those losing teams.
well, where does this passion come from? Is it the same thing as optimism, Pop, or where does this sports love and
So
faith
my
love
father,
and
it's all it actually originated with my father.
okay,
Uh,
okay.
and as you know, he was a baseball player.
Right.
He grew up in an Italian family, a very poor Italian family. Nobody had any jobs. He took up baseball when he was a very young man, and in turn was playing baseball 3 times a day at one point. There was playing in late morning and afternoon and twilight ball. He was belonging to
Oh,
3 different baseball teams, and he was a good baseball player. As he said, I was a much better fielder than hitter, but he said I was good. And so from there, he then went out, ended up in the Pacific Coast League and
hmm,
played out there. And that's how he made money in the Depression.
wonderful.
Yeah,
Is there any, because I know you prepared for this, is there any question that you wish I asked you, but I didn't ask you, Pop? I know you prepared a list of things in terms of being successful on the business side, longevity in terms of health and family with you and Grammy. Is there anything that you wish I asked you, but I didn't ask you?
some memories. Maybe you'd like to hear some memories.
Please, please.
Oh, those memories, how they ebb and flow. So many joyful times in the early years of my life and throughout these past 70. I wrote this a long time ago, and also these past up to 99 years. My 75 years of marriage. How blessed I have been to have grown up in America, to realize how many millions upon millions of people live their lives in countries that are filled with hate and crime, poverty. I grew up in America. People should appreciate how lucky they are to realize they grew up in America. To have had the most wonderful, loving parents any son could ever have had. To have grown up in those Depression years of the 1930s. This was not a time of disaster to me, and as it was for my parents, my grandmother and aunt. It was a time I could look back on as a time filled with days of bonding with our little family of 5, sharing love every day, having very little, but still able to laugh and enjoy life. I got to appreciate so many things in life because of those Depression years. There's a lot of people today that have just witnessed nothing but good times. We have not, luckily, had a depression in some long time. I wonder how they're going to be able to survive it if we have one. So many people have grown up having everything, not realizing that when they're sitting down to the dining room table and having a full meal, that they're lucky. It's something they expect and don't realize and appreciate how lucky they are. And that's why I think I was lucky to have grown up in a depression. We had an abundance of love for one another. We shared every penny we earned. God blessed us through our struggles. We paid our bills, most importantly, the mortgage, and what we had left over seemed to be enough to have those 3 meals a day. We most always were in good humor, but I'm sure when I was not present, they may have had, I know they had stress and tears and fright to what the future might be bringing. I didn't realize what they were going through. The thing that stuck in my mind, uppermost in my mind, was the great appreciation for the smallest things in life. Having a ball to play with, having a mitt to catch with, a bat to hit with, having waffles and sausage and baked beans and hot dogs most all the time for dinner, a Victrola to play records on, to hear wonderful music, classical music, waiting for the Iceman to cut off a long sliver of ice to suck on. Didn't have ice cream, couldn't afford it. I'm going to end so very soon.
Please don't. Keep going.
The good humor man. I sometimes was able to pay for one, but wasting till, but usually had to wait another week or two. Sleigh riding in the winter in Eastside Park. Oh, those wonderful hills. Sometimes being allowed to do it at night on weekends, sitting on the screen porch in the summertime when it would be sometimes 100 degrees, so hot we just sat there and slept there sometimes all night on the porch rather than go up to upstairs to our bedroom. Sometimes, not often, but having the money to buy a half gallon of vanilla ice cream and sarsaparilla that we called them black cows as we sat there in those hot nights. What a treat. We were a happy family, a caring family, a loving family, hardworking family, and a family that felt lucky enough to have less, to have been able to survive because a lot of our friends did not. We lived on 37th Street in Patterson, and each block had, I'd say, about 7 houses. 5 of those houses were vacant in the Depression, taken over by the bank because couldn't pay the mortgage. I used to play in their backyards, throwing balls against the back of the house, walking in those vacant backyards. It was very sad, very sad. I bring this up because, again, having witnessed that era held me in good stead, and I think a lot of people in very good stead. Probably, uh, you might say, all the veterans of World War II. They went through that same thing, and I think that's why there was so much appreciation of being able to earn a living, get a good job, buy a house, raise a family. Those were that everybody felt very lucky to be able to have done that. Anyhow, that's part of my story of life. But I think probably the thing I'd like to end with the most is the luckiest thing that ever happened to me. Two of the luckiest things that ever happened to me was finding my religion, finding God. And thanks to the second luckiest thing to have to do is finding my wife of 75 years. But those two things were kind of go together. She had, when I met my wonderful wife, she already had this great faith. She passed it on to me. As we were driving home just today, just this morning, and we have a new priest called Father Seve who had said Mass. And we're driving back home, and Joan said to me, "Aren't we lucky to be able to go to Mass each day and have the fortification of receiving the body and blood of Christ. How true. How very true.
Uh, I I'm overwhelmed with emotion, I guess. You drove me to baseball practice before I put that sport down. You put your arm on my shoulder during my confirmation, and you still make time for me quarterly to talk about the stocks that you hate and the ETFs that I should get into. Um, there's not enough gratitude or thank you I could say, not just being my grandfather, but I talk to you and about you as much as I can to anybody who will listen to me, because I think this world needs more mentors, role models, and leaders just like you. I've always admired your physical ability and your mind because you're so intelligent, but you also have a great spirit about you. Your faith is something that I admire most about you. Same with Grammy, and it's just so great to be friends with you. Thanks for carving out the time and finding out how to hop on Zoom at 99 years old. It's absolutely amazing, and I love you.
I love you and thank you for this interview. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I've
it was
enjoyed it.
fun.
Yeah, I brought, bringing up some of the things I did brings back such fond memories for me, and being able to pass them on, and that means a lot, for posterity.
That's right.
Yeah. And Mark, I can't thank you enough for the beautiful letters and messages that you have. I have a file with all your messages to us and letters to us, to me in particular. Uh, I love you dearly. I think I am so lucky to have you as a grandson.
Well, that feeling is more than mutual, and I cannot wait to celebrate Christmas with you this upcoming
Yeah.
week.